Good evening, sisters, and good evening, anyone watching this replay. I am coming here tonight to have a really soulful and beautiful conversation with my sister, Alanna. And we're here to talk about the messy, the raw, the real meaning of what surrender really looks like. In case you don't know me from any of my other healings or showing up in any areas on social media for you, I'm Nicole Light. I am a sacred feminine energy alchemist. I'm an energy healer and mentor, and I am here to help women move through all their emotional trauma and reclaim the parts of themselves that have been laying dormant or hidden, releasing energetic blocks, helping them reclaim themselves in a rebirth. And I just feel really called to hold spaces for women to help them come together in sisterhood and just really embrace the healing process, either alone with me or in a sisterhood setting. And tonight's conversation, I just wanted to share the wisdom and knowledge and beauty of my beautiful friend, Alanna, and want to introduce to you who she is. She has many gifts. She's incredible. She's a soulful mentor, intuitive guide, speaker, and creative catalyst for women ready to connect with their truth. I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, I'm actually so happy that we get an opportunity to actually have this conversation because it's been a conversation that we've had sort of over and over again in one way or another through the whole time that we've known each other. Right. And I think it's certainly when we talk about surrender, it's a word that I've had a really complicated relationship with over the course of my lifetime. And I think it is so important for us to understand what surrender is so that we can actually kind of be intentional and conscious about the action of surrender, about the ability to let go. And I think that that's really important. So I'm super happy to be here. I'm super happy to share that, and I'm super happy to really talk with others about what their experience has been as well.
I know I have always loved in the journey of us and just throughout my cancer journey and in this afterbirth stage, we've repeatedly come back to this topic and have kind of reevaluated what that actually means right now in this timeline. And, I find the fact that the definition just kind of changes with you and with your journey. So, like for myself, um, I know that I have always been afraid of actually surrendering because I know now that I have a past of coming from a wounded divine masculine. So the idea of letting go has been very, very scary for me. And I've always kind of wanted to hold on for dear life because I never felt secure and didn't trust where the universe would take me if I didn't hold on for dear life. And I had to learn one layer of that during my cancer journey. And um, I felt like I had no choice but to surrender to certain elements of that process. And that's just the 3D aspect of what surrender is. And I've come to know on a deeper level what the spiritual and the emotional aspects of surrender are now. But I think that you've always so, like, you've blown my mind throughout each conversation in terms of like the level of adageness that flies out of your mouth, in terms of what you've walked me through personally on this topic. And
Mm.
I would love to kind of go back in time and kind of rediscuss. I'll jog your memory. We spoke about how surrender was like holding on a raft. So I would love for you to kind of give me more.
I think, maybe I'll even take you back further to the just a little bit of my past and my history. So, and I'll start with adulthood because, it's way too far to go back. But I was a single mom, three kids, um, in a fairly intense role as a manager in healthcare, trying to navigate it all and really feeling like I had to control every single element of what life looked like, because I was afraid that if I let go of that, that things would fall apart. I became controlled. I had to stay within my masculine energy just to get through each day, right? You get up, you do the things, and that really was from a place of fear and scarcity and not trusting that life would have me, the actual element of the more deeper spiritual connection. I didn't actually um, feel that I was held in a way that I could allow. Right. And so when you're feeling like you're in the rapids of life, right, we often try to paddle against it, try to figure out how can we steer and direct this, when surrender is holding on to the raft and really trusting that it's going to get you through the rapids. So as long as you're holding on, you are going to get through. And that to me is surrender, because it's not that you don't have to take an action. You do. You have to hold on and you have to hold faith in the fact that when you kind of allow for the raft you're on to carry you through the hardness, that's kind of where you feel I'm surrendering and I'm allowing, and this journey is going to take me where we need to, right? So, you know for me the balance was, okay, I need to be able to be held by life, not feel like I'm always holding life together. And so that's where my journey with surrender sort of started and moved through. And I think it applies to kind of what you were going through in terms of that moment in time within your cancer journey.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's so beautiful. I love your analogies always, but when you had said that to me about the raft and holding on and that like, the rapids are going to be, like a not abrupt, but like you're on a rapid, it's not going to be a smooth sailing ride, but you just have to surrender to the process and like trust deeply that you will make it out, you know? And like at that time, I was, I think specifically dealing with I was enraged with the way things were unfolding for me because I was waiting for the date for my stem cell transplant and I had, gone into the hospital and I thought, I had kind of surrendered to the process because I was fighting that all the way through. I did not want to go, I was scared of having a stem cell transplant. And so I finally walked my ass in and I had a cough and they took a test and they said you had COVID and they kicked me out. And I was so freaking angry, so angry that they kicked me out of the hospital with, rightfully so. But I was ready to go through it. I was ready to, get this over with. And I had no choice but to, again, just kind of take the lesson and see why this was happening for me and see that, there was a reason why this was being postponed. And it's nothing short of God's work and the universe or creator who, with however anyone really resonates with that. But had I, well, there was no way I was going to be able to control that. But God had me and I was able to receive my transplant from my son, but his cells were extracted on my actual birthday, which was miraculous. Like, there's just no other explanation for that, quite honestly. And the day after my birthday was the day I received my transplant, but I had no choice but to surrender. And by actually like letting go, because I mean, the first few days I was raging really mad, but I let
Mhm.
go. And then by doing that, they called me and they were like, this is your new date, and that was like a 3D aspect of what surrender is, because like I said before, there's so many layers to the actual process of surrender, because it's not just, a 3D physical thing. It's a full body, soulful, and like emotional journey that you have to go through. And it's not easy at all.
Yeah. No, it really isn't. And I think one of the things that's really kind of interesting to me as well as I'm hearing this, like, and kind of revisiting that conversation, but also and that time in your life, but also thinking about those layers and recognizing that everything has a shadow. So there's light and there's dark. And surrender, there's a lot of shadow work that goes along with surrender and the layers that you need to kind of come to, right? Because the essence of surrender, which, when we really look at that, is like a conscious, empowered, and rooted trust in something, right? And so sometimes we say, yes, I'm surrendering it all, but we actually haven't done that like deeper work to understand, can we like hold trust, right?
Mhm.
Because it's not only just trust in the universe, it's actually trust in yourself, that you can hold yourself through this process as well. And that's the scariest part, right? And it's sort of like, okay, what do we do, right? So sometimes it's like, um, when I think about when I've tried to surrender to something that's been really hard to me, it's like I'm collapsing into it. But really, that's not surrender. Surrender is my conscious choice to step in and allow,
Mhm.
right? And so, like, it's not because I'm defeated that I'm surrendering. It's because I'm aligned and understand and believe that I'm held through this whole process, right? And it's about getting our nervous system ready, because we're like, it's it's really quite a big process, right? And I think when we're looking at the situation in that moment, it was getting your nervous system ready to be able to actually move into that true essence of surrender, to allow for that opportunity to be reborn, and all of the symbolism that goes along with like extracting the stem cells, receiving them on your birthday, all of this kind of stuff is sort of like really, really very powerful, right? And it's also that next step in true surrender and trust, in terms of what's ahead of you, right? So we release our control because we trust, right? So that allows us to move forward, right? So that's really important. The other thing that I had to explore as well is surrender is not avoidance, right? So sometimes like we utilize like spiritual bypassing or avoidance of a problem, saying we're surrendering to that problem. So how do we actually understand the difference, right? And hey, I am a well-practiced avoider. I have spent a lot of time moving through things, um, because of my own fears, my own sense of unworthiness. And so I've really had to look at, okay, am I actually stepping into Or am I trying to go around something that I'm meant to journey through? And so for me, that's the other conversation I think we need to be having more about. I am not just giving in, right? I am actually intentionally stepping into this space of like total trust and surrender and understanding, right? So I think that that's really important. I don't know what's your thought on that, because I saw your eyebrows go up there for a second. So
It's so funny. Yeah, I am like super expressive with the eyebrows. I think that that was
mhm,
really powerful. Like that was a really powerful share because I, I feel like it's way easier to avoid and kind of bypass and just say like, oh, I'm just surrendering and not take any accountability for the role that you actually need to do, like the work that you need to do, and look inside yourself and look at the reasons why you're so scared shitless. And by the act of surrendering, like where's the fear coming from? Where's the lack coming from? It points so many fingers or
yeah,
goes right back to you, your own lack and your own shadows. So it's a really empowerful empowered
yeah.
conversation to kind of like look in the eyes of, where are you taking accountability or where are you avoiding, your own journey and putting it under this umbrella of surrender when it's actually not surrender.
Well, and and I don't want to minimize that piece of that journey because it's just super important, right? Because that look at um who you are, because it's all about your identity, right? We're like, who am I? Can I trust me? Can I be accountable? Can I hold myself through different difficult emotions? Do I trust that I will be held through those difficult emotions, right? So if we don't have that, we can't fully move into that space of surrender that is going to allow us to expand and evolve and continue to like grow and manifest in our lives the things that are truly meant for us, right? Whether that happens to be our health, whether that's finances, relationships, all of those sorts of things, right? Because sometimes what we end up doing is looking at escape in scared clothing instead of actually being robed in this truth and understanding that allows for full surrender and support, right? And so I think that that's it. So often what happens is we I don't know about you, and you guys can certainly comment on that. I have lived in my head. I was always comfortable in my head, not in my body. And surrender in and of itself includes your body. So that's why I say it's actually a nervous system um, regulation. So when you can come into that space of peace and regulation, you are truly surrendering because you are truly whole, body, mind, spirit, because and you need all to embody and to enact a full surrender.
Yeah, that definitely resonates for me. I just want to say,
Mhm.
Katie, I'm
Hi,
glad you're
Katie.
here. I'm
Yeah.
I came here. Um, but yeah, what you were saying just now just kind of brings the whole thing back home to me for the idea that your root and you have to be grounded. Your masculine has to be just as healed as your feminine in order for you to feel the safety in being held. So
Yeah.
you really can't operate properly or balanced, I should say, without having both of those completely working together in tandem.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, often we think surrender is completely giving up your ego. It When we live our lives, we have to have the dance of our ego and the act of surrender to be able to navigate through life, because we still have to get things done, and that's that integration and sharing of divine masculine, divine feminine, being able to, at what point do you need to engage each to be able to navigate what life brings you? And that's like that full trust, right? And that's allowing for that surrender as well, to be able to actually fully sort of move through life knowing that you are supported, right? And knowing that you don't have to like like completely uh throw the brakes on or do all of that kind of stuff. Like, you are going to get those internal messages that are going to let you know what's the next logical step for me in moving forward with where I'm meant to be.
Hmm.
Right? Does that
Yeah.
make sense to
Yeah.
you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
you have to have like, you have to put forth movement. You have to like do inspired action, to create the outcomes you desire, but you also equally need to sit back and let it flow in its own
Hmm.
direction to come.
Yeah. Yeah. And although surrender is a more feminine act, it needs to be balanced, right? So it's 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 a pretty interesting, it's an interesting self-discovery work every day in terms of how to live that out and how to move forward. But I do find for myself, if I feel ill at ease about something, that means I haven't surrendered into the process, right? If I can't figure out how my body feels about it, I am not surrendered. So I have to remember to bring myself totally in. So, like, it's important to have your connection, which I think we all need and we all develop. But then we have to, within surrender, be able to come into our own bodies, be able to read and understand and allow and flow, because the energy needs to flow not only within us, around us, through us, like in all of that, to be able to kind of live a full life and to be able to trust that all will be well
That's
and be
another
peaceful, right?
very powerful, because I don't think a lot of people really pay attention to how they physically feel, but what their body's telling them, with anything. But
Yeah.
that's also really important, even for like, thank you for that, because when I'm going through that process myself now, I will listen to what my body's telling me, you know, and how my nervous system feels through that.
Hmm. And to really trust that. It's like I would say I probably didn't actually even really understand how to come into my body till about 5, 6 years ago, like really truly, and engage in the practices that would help me do that. Because I was never, what, even though I didn't recognize it, I don't think I ever felt safe enough
Mhm.
to come in and rest. I see your head shaking too, Katie. It's like it's it's the truth, and it's something that I'm really grateful that I yeah, have come into the awareness of that and understand that I am capable of bringing that to myself in a way that allows me to still feel safe and supported, and to like also to grow and connect with other people on a real heart level that I wasn't able to do really fully before. I was truly a giver, but I could not receive because I did not trust. So I couldn't surrender into receiving,
Mhm.
right? Because I actually didn't trust in any way, shape, or form that anyone could hold me, or that life would be there to support me through all of that. I knew the words. I could feel it, but until I actually surrendered into my own heart space to be able to feel it and integrate it, that really didn't integrate. That didn't even exist for me.
That's really powerful. That really is. I find this whole journey of surrender, it just kind of it just becomes deeper and deeper and deeper. It's just like a journey that never ends. You're constantly learning more. Where can you surrender more here? Where can you learn more here and surrender here and just reflect and see the truth of the situation? And again, these things, they just change different forms, like
Hmm.
they just keep going.
Yeah. And I think what you just said there, surrender comes in different forms, right? It can have many different faces. So sometimes it's I am crying, I have to get all these tears out, I have to do all this kind of stuff. Other times it's laughter. Other times it's quiet. So, like surrender can look like so many different things, um, but it's equally as valid. So, I think that's the other piece. Sometimes we feel that surrender is must be solemn, but surrender can be like screaming out loud, holding on to the rafters, just knowing you're going to get there, but I'm going to scream a bit on the way, or I'm going to cry, or it could be any number of things, but it's equally valid, it's equally surrender, it's equally a sign of trust and being engaged in our body. Because when we're making noise, when we're laughing, when we're crying, when we're moving, we are fully in ourselves, experiencing the vessel that's our body, the spiritual aspect of surrender, our minds being connected, body, mind, soul, where, and I think that's important to remember too, because surrender is going to look different when you're doing it versus me doing it versus you, Katie, doing it. um, and that's okay, and that gives us the opportunity to make our own waves and our own marks in the world that we are in at this moment in time too, right?
Absolutely. And surrender for me does not look pretty. Like it's just not. It's it's a tears, absolute tears. Occasionally, it might be a pillow punch, you know.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, it's like getting at those feelings of what like the letting out the frustration over the situation and just kind of
yeah,
letting it go somehow, you know. And then sometimes it is actually peaceful and just, feeling really held that, you're really supported and guided. Like it does have a peaceful side to me, but I do know for me when there's frustration, it comes with tears.
yeah. And it's the journey into surrender that comes with that. But when you come out at the other side, you're regulated and you feel like more together. Doesn't mean there's not going to be another bump, but it just means that you come to that side and you might be more prepared for the next one, right?
That's so true because I feel like the more you go through the surrender, the quicker you can move through the unpleasant part of surrender and just move through it a little more with ease, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about you, but I also find that because I've been so engaged in my own process, I can have more compassion for other people because I can hold people and hold space for people in a very different way now that I'm connected with what does that look like for me? Because I think that it's sort of an equalizing experience for many of us, right? And I think when you go through it and you know that the emotions and sometimes the heartache or the anxiety and the worry and all of those sorts of things, as you peel back all of that to get to the space of surrender, to get to the space of alignment and connection, it allows you to look at someone else's experience and be able to hold compassion for them in a different way. And I think that that is beautiful, and I think it is absolutely necessary right now, because no matter where we are, there are so many things happening around us that require us to hold compassion, and to lead with love. And I think when you are in a space of trust in yourself and your trust in God, the universe, or whatever power that you feel helps within your life, you are able to give that and receive that in ways that will will make a huge difference and will change the world one little ripple at a time, one little wave at a time.
I agree with you. I definitely agree with you also that, when you're going through it, you also can hold space for others because you understand deeply what it feels like to be in their shoes. And that empathetic aspect just expands, so it's
Hmm.
really, everyone goes through their own turmoil. And so I think being upfront about it, and is important. Um, Bypassing doesn't really help the person if they're going to kind of, push it down under a rug and pretend that they're not having any type of battles with this issue.
Hmm.
But I do feel that because when someone goes through these issues and these ups and downs, it enables them to open their hearts and have compassion for other people, like you said, too, that are going through twists, turns of any kind,
Hmm. Hmm. And I also think, like, we are in such an incredible time where we are all tapping more into the feminine, that we're able to actually journey into that trust and that being able to receive, that energy of receiving and understanding that we will be held, right? I think this is like a very beautiful time, because I think we've come from a time where we have had to hold everything in this tight little box. And you got to hold your life together, you got to do all this kind of stuff. But by allowing that to open up, by allowing us to surrender and allow that more feminine aspect of ourselves to come through, we are like, we're really in a really fundamental time where we are going to be so much more balanced, where we can heal those wounded aspects of ourselves, where we can come and hold space for broader healing in and of itself. And I think even in terms of my ability to use my intuitive um, gifts, I mean, the more that I've allowed myself to surrender, the more that that has become so much more apparent to me. And and the more that I share that in my everyday life, right? And I think and that allows for other people to go through their experience of this as well. So,
It does.
mhm,
It gives permission in a way for other people
mhm,
to soften and surrender too. It gives them that feeling that they are not alone when you're witnessing that in someone else.
mhm, mhm. Yeah.
It's interesting. It is. When you soften yourself up, you do open yourself up to receive more than you could ever
Mhm.
really imagine, you know?
Yeah, because fear is no longer leading me, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
I love this conversation. You okay,
Me too.
Katie?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah. It's a lot of big thoughts, eh, Katie? Like,
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being held down by my ginormous cat at the moment. Ah, no, come back. You were warm. Um, but I everything that's being said is resonating. I'm just trying to process because Nicole, you know a little bit about my recent background. I don't want to say too terribly much, only because I don't know where the recording is going to go. But definitely have had to stay very much in the wounded masculine for a very, very long time. And slowly learning that it probably goes back quite a bit farther than I had originally thought. Um,
Mm,
and really honestly thinking about it, I don't know that I've ever in my entire life been at a point where I could surrender, even begin to surrender, because of the circumstances and that type of thing. So and I'm just now starting to kind of learn about, um, divine masculine, divine feminine, and basically, the dichotomy of the two. And, you have to heal both of them simultaneously in a lot of cases. And the processes that you have to go through in order to do that. And it's, it's a lot to process.
mhm. It really is. And I started with my adult story as where I was very young. So I also at a very young age went through some trauma and also a near-death experience due to a health crisis that, kind of set me up to not do surrender very well, to not trust the world very well, to not even recognize that some of that had even occurred for many, many years, just because you have to protect yourself so, so hard that you never can let your guard down enough to be able to receive, because you don't actually think there's ever anyone that's going to be able to do that, right? So I can't I can't say like I empathize with your situation, because when it starts young, it is hard to kind of navigate your way through that and to build that internal trust. I think for me, even before I could even play, and I use the word play now because that's how I try to navigate through some of this energy, to be able to play with that uh, divine feminine, divine masculine. I actually had to just go in and say, okay, I got to just regulate my nervous system. I need to understand what my body in relax feels like, because like I lived out of my body because I did not want to experience my body. I didn't want to experience any of it, right? Not one thing. So, learning how to safely come back in, right? Because out here and into the cosmos, absolutely safe. I could be in there and play and ideas and all of this kind of stuff. But um, but I did not want to feel or experience or have any of that kind of stuff within my body. So like learning and having the support to be able to kind of come into your body so that at least your body can feel safe, even if you're not actually working on some of those heavier details, can make a huge difference because it sets you up, right? It's the foundation for that other stuff, right? And some of the more difficult things, and it allows you to build internal trust in yourself at the same time as building the trust in the universe and to God, into like um your spiritual powers, to be able to help kind of navigate you through that in trust, right? So yeah, it's a big commitment that you're making to actually step into that. And I'm really, thank you for sharing,
Mhm.
because it's not easy to share. It's not easy to kind of come forward, but that is in and of itself an act of surrender, to trust enough in this moment to share that. Like, um, it is an act of surrender because you're trusting in Nicole and me to hold you in this moment.
Okay, I can kind of see that to a point.
Yeah. It's not surrender, it's not full. You know what I mean? It's not like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm going to allow you to take me, like you're not my raft.
Hmm.
But in opening, it starts in small little amounts, right? It's not going to be full, because that took me a really long time. It might not take you that long, but it took me a really long time to build that safety. But every little bit is something that can move you forward, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Take
And
it's
it's okay where you are right in this moment. And you are okay. And in this space, you are supported, right?
yeah, surrender definitely an interesting, it's
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable too, deeply vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frightening, but we've covered that. But it is because you're letting the universe handle your business, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely deeply frightening. It's not like, I don't actually think it's normal to not worry a little bit. I don't know. I still
Mm-hmm.
haven't gotten to that space where I would be like completely like la la la, everything is fine. The universe has me no matter what. Like I have my moments where I'm very fearful, you know? I definitely
Yes.
do.
And I think we all do, right? Because I don't ever want to say that that doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Um, but I can hold and understand that fear or anxiety or worry are things that can come to me. And then I ask the question, like what do I need to allow myself to go through this,
Yeah.
right? And that can look different all of the time. That's an act of surrender. But like even as we were talking, it's not like you're not going, that you don't have fear, right? I
Right.
think you can have fear and still begin the journey of surrender.
Because you can actually hold both at the same time. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't
and
dawn
as
on
you
you.
kind of journey through it, some of that fear will go, because part of that is also gaining experience. I've gained the experience that I can be held through this. I've gained the experience that I can do. So that's like regulating yourself through that, and being able to allow that demonstration of safety and security, right? That you need to be able to further trust um, in that journey, right? So it's incremental for many of us. It's not necessarily, I've surrendered, here I am. It's very incremental, right? And it can be painful sometimes. It can be painful,
I would agree.
right? And it can, because it's the journey to the peace that can be painful sometimes. It can be dissettling. It can be, I have to look at who I am and what's important to me, and and move through that, but trust that I can either hold myself, or I am held through that in other ways. And that can be through community, it can be through your spiritual practice, it can be through, nervous system regulation practices. It can be through all sorts of support services that help you get through that too, right? Everything can come together to provide that support and that raft to make your way through the rapids, right?
Absolutely. I feel like I could go on and on with you about this topic because we can. Like, there are just so many examples of this, but I will probably put a bow on this. And
Yes.
I am so, so grateful to have you join with me tonight and grateful that you came here. Also, Katie, thank you so much for sharing yourself and your energy and your beautiful heart here with us. Um,
Such that it is.
Alanna, is there any like final thing you'd like to express before?
Sure, I think we really they covered so much of it, right? And I think that that's the thing. Um I think it's important to continue the conversation. I think it's important to kind of revisit that. And certainly to connect in with you, Nicole. Like, you have some wonderful offerings and beautiful healings that can help people navigate through that. And I'm certainly happy to connect with anyone that would feel that they would like to engage in conversation with me as well. And I can provide that information, like just where to kind of connect with me on Facebook or Instagram.
Mhm.
But I think what's exciting to me is that we're actually talking about these things and creating the spaces where we can all grow.
So, in conclusion, I will offshoot that and say for anyone watching the replay, yes, Alanna is correct. I do have my offerings. I have my sisterhood monthly membership, which I'm deeply in love with. We have our energy healings, we have our sister chats, we have voice activations, our weekly card pulls, we have our private group chat. It's nourishing, delicious, and I just love what's inside that space. I have a new program that is launching November the 3rd, and it's a 6-week beta program for the energetic investment of $333. It's going to be dealing with energy healing, meeting once a week. Each week we'll be dealing with a different aspect of calling back what I would call your divine feminine essence. So one week we'll be dealing with all solar and feminine fire and confidence and boundaries setting and anything related to like anger and frustration. One week we'll be doing sacral, which is all feminine fire as well, but more sensuality, um, creativity, your magic, your feminine essence, sensuality, if I didn't say that before. So the list goes on, but each week is very, very specific and will also be held in a private space as well, so we can all stay connected throughout the week. And I'm just really looking forward to that. That came out of my own process of calling back all of the hidden parts of myself that I have discovered since my cancer and coming back into my rebirth. So that's one of my other offerings. One-on-one work. Um, oh, and if anybody desires to connect for a 30-minute sacred energy healing to talk, or for me to go through your chakras and let you know where you're holding on to any type of stagnant energies, I welcome that and I love connecting. Trying to think what else I got. My private Facebook group, the Sacred Feminine Energy Alchemist. No, that's not it. That's who I am. That's what I call myself. Rewind. My group is called Sacred Feminine